Coordinator Nate Scheelhaase to offensive coordinator, making quarterbacks coach Dave Ragone the new offensive coordinator, co-offensive coordinator slash QB coach. Scheelhaase interviewed for 5 head coaching jobs during this cycle, but now the final offensive coordinator opening in the league has been filled in a very Rams kind of way. Remember, they also brought in Cliff Kingsbury to join the coaching staff under Sean McVay. So really just kind of a new mix of guys. RC, what do you think of what the Rams are doing out there with the offensive staff?
Well, I think the first thing I think is that Sean McVay makes it work no matter who it is. And we've seen so many of his assistants move up in Los Angeles and become head coaches. And Nate Scheelhaase, who had opportunities to interview for head coaching jobs, seems like the next up. He was the pass game coordinator last year, and we saw what they were able to do with Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell, and that group of tight ends. For me, it's also bringing in Cliff Kingsbury. Now you're collecting other great offensive minds, and for me, what that adds is an outside perspective on how other people see you, how they know your tips, your tendencies, and how you can now change from the perception that is had of you outside of the building when someone can say to you, when we prepared for this offense, here is what our defensive staff told us.
RC, I love that. I'm going to go to the opposite side with these coaches. It's guilty by association in a good way. If you're Cliff Kingsbury, why wouldn't you want to come work for Sean McVay and see how a head coach with that tremendous amount of success has been able to sustain it? One with a veteran quarterback, a team that's changed around him, and also Scheelhaase being there, being promoted from within. And Sean McVay, we all know who's the catalyst to this offense and how much success that they've had. So I would want to be a part of a staff or the next step in my journey. Remember, Cliff Kingsbury has been a head coach in this league before and started really well, and it fell off. So I think a lot of this for Sean McVay is not only having more eyes and ears and more experience in the locker room, but it's also for Scheelhaase and obviously Cliff Kingsbury to learn from a guy that's doing it at a very high level and have that be a part of your resume when you go into this next phase of trying to become a head coach and run an organization, more so than calling X's and O's, but recognizing how important it is to have all of that other stuff figured out.
Whatever McVay's doing is working. 9 NFL seasons so far. He's had 10 or more wins in 7 of them and appeared in 2 Super Bowls. That is one of 21 new offensive coordinators around the league this offseason. Just a monster number. So we want to go through some of the new offensive coordinator quarterback pairings. In Seattle, they brought in Brian Fleury, who has been part of Kyle Shanahan's staff in San Francisco the last several years. Here's what he had to say about his plans for the Super Bowl champions offense.
I do think one of the advantages of taking this job is there is going to be a lot of continuity. I've already started to dive into everything that Clint was doing here last year, and the goal would be to maintain as much of that as possible, but there's also areas where we can supplement that with things that we've developed and done in San Francisco under Kyle that Clint wasn't there for or maybe didn't implement as much. So it's that's going to be the goal, is to keep as much as we can the same, but I think there's definitely areas we can grow, some different ways we can challenge the players that they should be looking forward to when they get back here.
Swagoo, you want to talk about high expectations. This is a team that just won the Super Bowl. How much pressure is on this guy?
I think it's one of the most pressurized offensive coordinator jobs in the league. I would say the most if it wasn't for Philadelphia. But when you think about this, I love what Fleury said in his interview. He said, we are going to keep some of the things because it's really about committing to making sure that Sam Darnold keeps on this track of being a very high-level quarterback in this league. And there's nowhere to go outside of the Super Bowl but down. So why wouldn't you want to implement some of those very successful things that he's done? But he's also said, I want to put a little bit of my spin and bring some things and nuance to this offense. I think that was the perfect answer. If he would have came in, you, me, and RC, you, me, and RC would have been like, what the hell you mean you're going to change everything? We just watch y'all win a Super Bowl. We just watch y'all go toe-to-toe with the Los Angeles Rams in order to get to a Super Bowl from an offensive standpoint. But I think he made the right correlation and connection between becoming this new offensive coordinator, the progression of Sam Darnold, and also saying we can add some nuance to become even better than we were last year.
And where you become better, Marcus, is the physicality in the run game. And I know that's going to sound crazy because of what we saw Kenneth Walker do down the stretch. But look at the way that this team changed. as Kenneth Walker became a priority in this offense, that Kenneth Walker and the run game started to excel. And the one thing the San Francisco 49ers have consistently done is been creative and put the football in Christian McCaffrey's hands in so many different ways, especially in the run. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Brian Fleury can do with that aspect of this team, because one place they struggled during this season was in the red zone, and having a great run game can be the cure for a lot of those ails.
Yeah, Seahawks just 21st in red zone efficiency this past season. They ran it in the red zone at the 5th highest rate, so that is an area where they'll look to improve. In Baltimore, new offensive coordinator is 29-year-old Declan Doyle. He's going to team up with quarterback Lamar Jackson. Doyle talked this week about his expectations for building a championship offense.
We would expect him to be here and certainly he is volunteer. And so, but it's also, you know, if you want to say that you're going to win a championship, you want to say that you have championship standards and those are your goals and your expectations, certainly that's going to take work, that's going to take collaboration, that's going to take the beginning of building the relationship with their coaches, other players, you know, starting off this next regime on the right foot.
So a little touchy there. Coaches aren't supposed to pressure guys into showing up for voluntary workouts, but Swagoo, you like the message from the new coordinator?
I love the message. Graz, you and RC know I'm an elephant in the room guy. And if Lamar Jackson ass ain't there in the offseason with a brand new offensive coordinator, you know we gonna come on during this football season. And the first minute they struggled, we gonna talk about Lamar wasn't there when this coach showed up. I think that's a big move by Declan Doyle. It's establishing respect. It's establishing that I'm the coach and offensive coordinator, but I'm wanting in my quarterback here. I'm wanting the guy that I've seen do so many tremendous things in this league to be a big part of the success that we have. And I got to reframe something that I said earlier. This will be the most polarizing offensive coordinator job in the league when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens because of who Lamar Jackson is and how this offseason has transpired. But I think that's a statement that he needed to make. Bisciotti alluded to it throughout the coaching search. Lamar have his ASS down here when we trying to make this decision and be there in the OTAs. And I think more than anything, Lamar understands this as well. If he wants to win a Super Bowl, if he wants to go deeper into the playoffs and have better performances, it's going to start now and building the rapport with your new offensive coordinator, who I think is ecstatic to work with Lamar Jackson and try to get him to where he hasn't been yet.
Well, speaking of elephants in the room, let's get to the real elephant. Lamar Jackson has more cachet than Declan Doyle. And I'm talking about more cachet than Declan Doyle in the Baltimore Ravens building, in every building around the NFL. And so the word that stands out to me is collaborative, right? Because we gotta get together and work on something that works for Lamar Jackson, something that works for the Baltimore Ravens. He needs to have input, and that's why he needs to be there. Lamar Jackson doesn't need to be in Baltimore and OTAs to get taught how to play football. Lamar Jackson knows how to play football. If you're Declan Doyle, you're getting this job when you were working under Ben Johnson, who's called plays. This is your first time at 29, the same exact age as Lamar Jackson. And so now let's collaborate. Let's work on something that you feel good about and add the things that I've learned working under a genius like Ben Johnson, seeing Caleb Williams ascend, and make this offense as explosive as it can be under the two-time MVP. And so when they get together this offseason, the conversation is going to have to be about what makes us most comfortable, and Lamar Jackson needs to be in Baltimore to have those conversations.
Yeah, those 2 MVP trophies, but the reason there's a new staff there in Baltimore and John Harbaugh's gone is because they haven't had the playoff success, so we'll see what they can do to fix that. In Tennessee, new head coach Robert Saleh brought in Brian Daboll as his offensive coordinator. Daboll has worked with Josh Allen, Daniel Jones,